This is a baby dragon, and this is that same dragon as a massive beast destroying an entire city. Today I'm going to simulate what it would be like to raise a dragon as a pet. I'm going to be building him habitats, feeding him, introducing him to other animals, and simulating all of the stages of his life. This is going to get insane. But to start things out, here he is as a baby. He's sleeping right now, so I'm going to wake him up. Right now, the dragon is only about 4 inches tall with tiny teeth, tiny claws, tiny spikes on his back, and a long tail. This guy's going to get absolutely massive, so right now he's the smallest and most harmless that he will ever be. In order to see what it's like to raise a dragon as a pet, I'm going to simulate all of his daily tasks. Starting off with giving him some toys and seeing how friendly he is. Now I'm going to offer him a finger and see what happens. Okay, luckily his teeth are still pretty small. I'm going to call this little guy Blaze. But later in this video, those teeth are going to change and he's going to get a lot more dangerous. But next, I think it's time we start feeding Blaze because he needs to start growing. So here's a montage of him trying a bunch of different foods, starting out with some berries. Then I gave him a piece of steak, and he went absolutely crazy for it. So apparently Blaze is definitely a meat eater, and he washed all of this down with some water from a bottle cap. Later in the video, I'm going to feed him a lot more, even larger foods. But for now, he's pretty small, so he can't really eat much. I'm going to be building him habitats, introducing him to other animals, taking him out into the real world, and watching him grow from something that fits in my hand into something that can level an entire city. But first, he needs a home. But the next thing Blaze is going to need is a habitat that he can actually live in. So I'm going to build him a home inside of this glass tank with everything that a baby dragon would need. Since dragons love both land and heat, I'm going to make half of this a rocky environment with a cave for him to hide in, and the other half is going to have a warm, shallow pool for him to soak in. Now the entire habitat is done with everything he needs to survive as a baby. He has hiding spots in the rocks, a cave to sleep in, warm water to soak, and enough space for him to grow. For now, he can just live in here, but eventually when he gets bigger, he's going to be moved to a much bigger place. It's time for Blaze to move in. Blaze slowly made himself at home. He explored around, took a dip in the warm water, went inside the cave, and he seemed to really enjoy this place. He found his favorite sleeping spot inside the cave, and over the next few days he even let me feed him by hand. But now I'm going to see if Blaze lets me pet him. And even though he doesn't look like the most friendly creature in the world, he actually let me pet him on the head. Over the next few days, Blaze seemed to really enjoy this place. And since he was pretty friendly and has been growing faster by the day, I'm going to introduce him to some other common pets to see how he reacts. Starting off with a dog. Next, what about a cat? Okay, the cat was definitely not a fan. Okay, Blaze seemed to like scaring the cat, but now I'm going to feed him a live animal. Since there's water in his habitat, I added in some small fish, and we're going to see if he can hunt them down. Over the course of the next few days, Blaze ate all of his fish and grew even larger. He's now about 2 feet tall, and he was clearly outgrowing the tank. But little does he know what's going to happen once he starts living outside and grows much bigger. He's going to become the most dangerous creature the world has ever seen. And that's when I noticed something new. One afternoon while I was feeding him, Blaze sneezed. An actual fire came out of his mouth and scorched the side of the tank. The tank didn't survive that one. But don't worry, that's just a preview because Blaze's fire is going to get a lot stronger. But the next thing I need to do is take this creature out into the real world, because he's about to outgrow everything. But first, he needs a bath because he smells terrible. So now I'm going to take Blaze outside and simulate raising him like a kid. I took him to the park. I took him to a restaurant. And Blaze tried to steal someone's food right off their plate. So we got kicked out pretty fast. Next, I took him to the beach, and Blaze is going to swim in the ocean for the very first time. He was able to swim pretty well, and he seemed to love the water. But he couldn't go too deep yet because of his size. Something tells me Blaze is going to be back here later in this video, and next time, he's going to go a lot deeper. But now we're going to fast forward over several months of Blaze growing, eating, and slowly outgrowing everything in my apartment. Here's what he looks like now. He no longer lived in his tank and instead slept on a human bed. He started eating human-sized food and started walking around outside, scaring kids. But unfortunately, Blaze was getting too large to keep at home. He was outgrowing the apartment, scaring the neighbors, and his fire was getting stronger every day. Because what's about to happen next is going to change everything. He's going to go from a house pet to the most wanted creature on the planet. But for now, let's get him somewhere bigger. So for the next stage of his journey, Blaze is going to be transported to a local zoo to live among other large animals. Even though he's grown to love his home and has been raised here since he was a baby, he needs more space to live a happy, healthy life. And we're going to build him a brand new massive habitat at the zoo with plenty of space. The habitat has a large pool of water next to the viewing glass for him to swim in, lots of land to walk around, and a cave in the back for privacy. Now it's time to transport Blaze there and see what he thinks.
Wow,
This might be the
look at its
coolest animal ever
eyes.
added to a zoo. Blaze was instantly a hit with everyone crowding around to see this creature. Now standing over 4 feet tall with wings and a spiky back, this is unlike anything the zoo has ever seen. Since Blaze is so much bigger now, we're going to give him giant portions. He started eating full-size steaks and entire watermelons that he chewed like candy. However, soon after becoming too popular, too many people were crowding around his habitat going crazy. Blaze ended up getting sick of all the attention but had no place to get away from it. He struggled to sleep because of the noise, and he missed the simplicity of the first home he grew up in where he could live in peace and get head massages. And after getting sick of all the attention with no place to escape, one day Blaze decided enough was enough. The zoo did not like this at all. They removed Blaze from his home, packed him in a truck, and transported him to a private habitat in the back of the zoo that was much smaller, dirtier, and darker. It was basically solitary confinement for animals, and it was right next to the trash dump. Blaze's new routine was waking up to trash being thrown near his face, walking around on a tiny piece of land he could barely turn on, and swimming in the dirtiest water he'd ever seen. After a few days, they forgot to even feed him, so he started eating leftovers from the trash. Blaze called for help every night, but no one answered, leaving him sick, alone, and filled with rage. And that rage was about to become a very big problem. And then one night, something inside Blaze snapped. He started blasting fire at the walls of his prison, destroying everything around him. After blowing his prison to rubble, Blaze had escaped, and he had unfinished business with the zoo. He started breaking animals out of their cages, wreaking havoc, and going on an absolute rampage. Blaze was now over 8 feet tall and destroying everything in sight. The zoo's apex predators tried to stop him, but none of them stood a chance. His size, strength, and anger was too much for any of them. But Blaze didn't stick around for long. After destroying the zoo, he ran off and headed straight for the ocean. There was now a creature on the loose that the world had never seen before. He headed for the water, and unlike last time, this time Blaze went a lot deeper, but he quickly entered the territory of the ocean's largest predators, and right as the dragon was about to handle them, the military arrived. After breaking out of the zoo, Blaze had become a worldwide threat. The military arrived to capture him, and what the military had planned for this creature was something I never could have imagined. Blaze was now locked away in a glass cage at a military base. Once he woke up, he immediately started trying to break out, but there was no point in fighting back. Scientists hooked Blaze up with a bunch of wires, running experiments on him, as this was a creature the world had never seen before. But they weren't planning to just experiment on this creature, they had much bigger plans for him. They decided this creature was too powerful to just keep locked away. They were going to use Blaze as a military weapon. They added a giant shock collar around his neck that they could use to control him, and then they took him into his first battle. Blaze was at his most powerful form so far and was ready for anything. He started destroying everything in the enemy's path, tanks, helicopters, entire battalions. He had become the perfect military weapon. The enemy had no answer to stopping Blaze. So they went with their last resort. They flew jets over the dragon and dropped bombs directly on him, causing a massive explosion. But instead of killing him, it did something no one expected. But instead of dying, Blaze absorbed all of that energy and got even more powerful. The shock collar broke off. He was now free, much larger, and much angrier. Over the next few weeks, Blaze was tired of humans and decided to destroy everything he could see. He invaded cities, blasting buildings to rubble, and no matter how hard they tried, it was now impossible to stop him. He was too big, too powerful, and kept getting larger. As he destroyed more and more of the city, I watched all of this happen on TV, knowing that I'm the one who fed this thing blueberries when it was 4 inches tall. Watching him destroy that city, I kept thinking about the first night he hatched. How Blaze fit in one hand. How he used to fall asleep on the towel under the lamp. How he would let me pet him on the head. And then something happened that changed everything. In the middle of all the destruction, Blaze stopped. He just stopped. And he turned toward one direction like he recognized something. I don't know how he found me. Maybe it was my scent, maybe it was something else. But when I stepped out onto the street, there he was, 30 feet tall, looking right at me. Blaze lowered his head all the way down to the ground, this massive dragon, covered in armor, surrounded by a burning city, and he pressed his nose against my hand. The same way he did when he was small enough to fit in my pocket. Blaze looked at me one last time with those same amber eyes he had the night he hatched. Then Blaze spread his wings across the entire block, crouched down, and launched himself into the sky. And just like that, the creature that I raised from an egg, fed by hand, and let sleep at the foot of my bed was gone. Some nights, I still check the sky. And I still keep the eggshell on my nightstand, because if you listen close enough, I swear it still hums.